Hey everyone, welcome to the Your Inside Track to Success podcast. I'm Stewart Kraintz. I am your host, and I am super blessed and grateful to have you here today, whether you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or maybe even catching this on YouTube. I want you to know that I am grateful for you, not only because you're spending this time with me, but because, quite honestly, this is a personal development show. This is about getting your mindset right so that you can and will create the life of your dreams. So I'm actually grateful to you for taking yourself on and choosing yourself, because I think one of the greatest things that's lacking in our society today, my personal belief, is that people are not actively pursuing the lives of their dreams. Maybe their set of circumstances has put them in a situation where they're just trying to get by. And I'm not making any of that wrong. Like your situation, your circumstance says, actually, that's a plural. Your circumstance are where you're at. They're the set of rules that you are blessed to play the game of life by currently. However, I'm here to support you if you just know in your gut that there's something better for you. If you know that you're not satisfied with the status quo, if you know that you were meant for something bigger and greater with your life, that is who this show is for. Again, I'm your host. I'm Stewart Kraintz. I am a mindset, success, and relationships coach based here in Columbus, Ohio. And I got to tell you guys, like, investing in yourself is the absolute greatest investment you can make. And I like to think that my life is living proof. Like, just to give you a quick rundown of who I am, if you're getting to know me for the first time, and you will get to know me even better as we move forward episode by episode with guest speakers, but also some solo shows like today's, you'll know that I had a lot going for me as a kid. Like, I was the kid that, had a lot of advantages, was very blessed to have a safe, secure, stable family home growing up, had pretty much actually had everything I needed and a lot of what I wanted too. Shout out to my parents for doing an awesome job. But somewhere along the way, I lost my way. Like, I lost my belief in myself. I lost the uh, desire to try harder, to be the best version of myself each and every day. I became addicted to the stories that I was making up about myself as to why I couldn't have the life of my dreams, have the life that I want. And I got to tell you, it led me down a pretty dark path for a while. I've been hospitalized multiple times with stress related illnesses. I've actually had 5 back surgeries before the age of 29. I'll get into that on a later episode. And, I just want to say that it took a lot of deep work, a lot of deep reflection, a lot of willingness to get uncomfortable and messy and get outside of my comfort zone, but it is all worth it. I am 33 years old currently. I'm in the best shape of my life since high school varsity basketball. I am married to the woman of my dreams. Her name's Jennifer. She's pretty great. She'll probably make an appearance on the show multiple times down the road. We have a great son. His name's Tucker. He's 8, bundle of joy. And, we even have a dog who drives me crazy a lot of the times, but we love him too. He's just a giant love bug. Not even 5 years ago, y'all, everything I have now felt like an absolute impossibility, period. And no matter where you are currently, if you're just feeling stuck, feeling in a rut, not knowing where to go, or if you're actively pursuing your dreams also, this is meant to support you. So the topics we'll cover are going to be mindset, health, you know, personal care, personal wellness, Going to get as many people on here for interviews as we can to bring different, valuable, interesting perspectives on things, all in the service of helping you create the life of your dreams. So let's get started. So, as a life coach, I work with clients on a group and individual one on one basis around their goals, their day to day mindset, and also helping them figure out what they want with their lives, quite frankly. You see, when we're little, when we're young, we have huge dreams. I wanted to be an NBA player. Newsflash, I didn't make it, but that was my dream. I was going to be in the NBA. I was going to be 6'9", dunking a basketball, making all-star games, probably playing for the Golden State Warriors. Like, that was what I wanted. And somewhere along the way, the dreams shift. Like we unfortunately, as human beings, have to deal with the realities of life. And life throws at us the circumstances, this kind of like evidence, whether it's true or not, but gives you reasons to believe, rightly or wrongly, most often wrongly, that you can't have what you want. So like if you're in an unhealthy relationship with somebody, maybe your takeaway from that toxic relationship is you're not worthy of love. If you get fired from a job and it's in your dream career field, like I was once upon a time, and I'll share more on that probably in a future episode, that can create a false story for you that prevents you from taking future actions towards creating your dream life because you believe the lies about you. And that's not fair to you. And so that's a lot of the work I do with people. I work with people exactly where they're at in real time with their present set of circumstances, with their present set of goals. And I push them, I challenge them, I get them to reflect a lot on what's working and what's not working, and to continue to iterate so that they continue to move themselves forward. Because guess what, guys? Like, just because you set a goal doesn't mean life isn't going to keep throwing circumstances at you. Matter of fact, I actually find that life doubles down a lot of the time on the circumstances. And by being there, being that level of support for men, for women, they find that having someone like me in their corner supports them in overcoming those barriers, those obstacles, the times when they would normally quit. And so that they keep going and actually develop the momentum and the discipline that creates the result. So that's what I do in the most basic nutshell. And, I wanted to give you guys a lot of value today, given that this is going to be the first ever episode of this show. And, I think maybe the thing that I say ad nauseum and I talk about a lot is because this is something that has been a huge part of my personal growth journey, my personal story, is one of confidence, is the question of confidence. How do I create it? How do I become more confident? What do I do if I'm not confident? So on and so forth. I actually haven't met a single person that hasn't struggled with confidence on some level. Even the people that you are thinking about right now as I say this, I guarantee you they struggle with confidence on some level. I was actually listening to another podcast the other day, somebody that is fortunate enough to have top professional athletes and billionaires and, entrepreneurs on their show. And he said that at the end of every interview, no matter how rich, how famous, how put up on a pedestal by society this person may be, the first question they always ask him is, was that okay? Did I sound okay? Did I talk too long there? And that's indicative of the fact that no matter who you are, there's always something that's going to cause insecurity. Now, the issue here, going back to what I was saying before, the issue here is when we allow those insecurities, those falsehood, those lies about who we are as a human being to become the truth. Now, going back to my basketball example, me being in the NBA, I'm 6'2". I'm a tall guy. I'm decently built, not very athletic. I'm just gonna own that. Not, can barely clear a phone book if I jumped. However, maybe the NBA was never gonna be in my future, but there is a version of reality where if I had practiced harder in junior high and high school, if I had shot hoops every single day after school, or if I had woken up in the morning to go running to, make sure I stayed in the top physical shape, I maybe could have played Division 2 ball, Division 3 basketball, and NAIA basketball. Maybe I wasn't going to be the next top recruit, but there is a version where I could have maximized my potential as a basketball player, and I didn't, because I believed at the time as a kid, I took being outplayed by other kids at basketball camps to mean that, oh, I'm actually not very good at this. I really love this, but I'm actually not very good. And therefore, if I'm not very good, why would I try to get better? So I am proud of the fact that I was co-captain of the varsity basketball team for my high school my senior year. I busted my butt. I earned that, I think, in every sense of the word, but I also know that I didn't maximize my potential because of my lack of self-confidence paralyzing me from taking action. And if you really think about your own life, I guarantee you there is something that you are paralyzing yourself from taking action on right now. Or you're paralyzing yourself from shifting how you're doing things. Maybe not willing to look at a new perspective to get the feedback required. These are the ways in which the lack of confidence does a lot of harm in our lives. Fellas, I know I'm saying fellas, but in our society, it's typically the male that approaches the female. Like, fellas, you got to have some confidence if you're going to approach the girl and ask for her number, right? Or like try to get to know her. Confidence is often rewarded in our society, so that's why it's important, and that's why I'm focusing on it today. So, without further ado, this is how you build self-confidence, bar none. I'm going to give it to you right now, and we're going to explain it. I'm going to say it a couple times because it's so important. We build self-confidence by keeping our promises to ourselves, but only if we acknowledge ourselves for what we have accomplished. Now I'm going to say it again. We build self-confidence by keeping our promises to ourselves, but only if we acknowledge ourselves for what we have accomplished. Now, before I go any further, I do want to acknowledge that the first part of what I said was we build self-confidence by keeping our promises to ourselves. I did not come up with that. I'm going to give credit where credit is due. That comes from somebody I really look up to in this space. His name is Ed Milet. He has his own podcast. He interviews some of the absolute best minds in the world in health and fitness and sports and entrepreneurship and just about anything you can think of. He's probably interviewed them and interviewed people at the highest levels. Highly recommend his show. Totally borrowing that from him. but the other piece is mine, and it's from my lived experience and my experience coaching my clients. Only if we acknowledge ourselves for what we have accomplished. So, again, all together, we build self confidence by keeping our promises to ourselves, but only if we acknowledge ourselves for what we have accomplished. That is how you build self confidence. It's tried and true. I see it every day in the work I do with my clients. I see it out in real life, just observing and talking to people and connecting with them about their goals and what they're up to. And I see it in my own life. I am more confident when I'm acknowledging myself for doing the things that I'm doing each and every day, period. So let's dissect it a little bit more and tell you why this matters and why self acknowledgement matters. It's not from vanity. I promise you that. It's not from vanity. It's not from our ego. It's actually to suppress our ego. Because you see, our ego wants to keep us small. Our ego doesn't care about our happiness. It doesn't care about our quality of life. Definitely doesn't care about whether or not we accomplish our goals. Like, let's just forget that right now. Acknowledging yourself for what you've done actually silences the ego, because the ego is going to do every single thing it possibly can to prevent you from taking the actions necessary to create the life of your dreams. And that includes things, ladies and gentlemen, that includes things like discrediting yourself, not giving yourself the benefit of the doubt, qualifying, meaning like, yeah, but I can't really take credit for this because so and so helped me, blah, blah, blah. Doesn't matter. Acknowledge yourself, because all of those things that you think you're doing, being humble, you are actually reinforcing for yourself the idea that you are not deserving of what you want to create with your life. Period. Now, I'll tell you straight up, like, our society, I think, definitely wants us to be humble, except for the people you see on social media who are just making fools of themselves, doing whatever. But I was raised to be very humble, and that has absolutely benefited me in social settings, in job interviews, in any type of setting where I'm in relationship with another human being. Being humble is a good thing. Like, it actually makes the other person you're conversing with more comfortable talking to you. The fine line here is when you are undermining yourself, undermining your confidence. So again, we build self-confidence by keeping our promises to ourselves, but only if we acknowledge ourselves for what we have accomplished. So acknowledgement is key. It's important. You get to do more of it. Now, when I say acknowledge yourself for what you have accomplished, I am not just talking about the giant, like, bold in bright lights, like I lost 50 pounds, or I ran my first marathon, or I built a business and it's doing $1 million in sales a year. Those are amazing things. Celebrate the crap out of those. Like, absolutely. Don't let anybody stop you either. What I'm actually talking about here, acknowledging yourself for every single time you are silencing your ego and stepping outside of your comfort zone in order to take the consistent, committed actions needed to get where you want to go. Because let me tell you, anything worth doing is going to take work. Nobody's going to hand you anything at all. I wish they would, but it's just not the world we live in. You know, to that point, this podcast has been a dream of mine for at least 5 years. And today I am finally in a place where I am pushing beyond my own ego, beyond my own self limiting beliefs, and recording this so that I can put it out in the world, knowing and trusting that the right people are going to hear it at the right time for them. And this is going to make a difference in their lives. But again, I had to fight through my ego in order to do that. So I am going to acknowledge myself when I'm done recording this, because the accomplishment is recording this episode for you guys. It took me 5 years to build up the confidence to press record. And it was baby step by baby step, and people telling me I have a voice for this and telling me I have a lot to share, going to church and pastors telling me I have something to share with the world, all without having conversations with them, by the way. Like, these are just things they said to me. And it still took me showing up. So I'm going to acknowledge myself, and it's going to look like, probably calling my parents, excitedly letting them know, because they're my biggest supporters outside of my wife. Acknowledging yourself also, to that point, y'all, does not have to be like throwing yourself a big party. Doesn't mean you got to get drunk. Doesn't mean you got to do any of these things, but it's just like letting yourself receive, letting it land that you are doing something that 99% of people don't have the courage or desire to do. And that's to make the most of their time here on this earth. So again, we build self-confidence by keeping our promises to ourselves, but only if we acknowledge ourselves for what we have accomplished. So we've kind of covered the latter half of that already. I'm going to jump forward to the first half. We build self-confidence by keeping our promises to ourselves. There are many schools of thought, I believe, on how and where to accomplish things. By things, I mean goals. You can go buy a personal development book, and everybody's going to have their own idea of how you set a goal. But the one for me that makes the most sense and seems the most tried and true, and really what all these books are saying, just with their own way of saying it so that you'll buy the book, is the concept of dream, declare, deliver. I have a dream. I have a vision. This is my North Star. It's my guiding light. It's where I want to go. I am declaring that I will have it. Now, you can say you want a Rolls Royce, but actually declaring something is giving yourself a buy when date. And if you felt your stomach churn or your heart jump a little bit, this is for you. Any goal without a buy when, meaning the date you are declaring, planting your flag in the ground, this is when you're going to do it by, and without a plan, to an action plan to help yourself get there, is a dream. It's not a goal. The odds of you accomplishing a goal without a firm by when date and without an action plan to get there, it's a little bit better than than a daydream, y'all. It just is. And so we build self-confidence by keeping our promises to ourselves is having the dream, declaring strongly, emphatically, and with actual action steps planned out and thought out behind it, and then delivering on it. And again, I am not just talking about like the big, like written in the sky, like I've accomplished something, like becoming a millionaire or, you know, buying my dream home, buying the dream car. Those all count. They sure do. But it's also the little everyday things that we overlook, like having the difficult conversation with the loved one or repairing, like doing anything actually, like repairing a broken friendship, getting right with your creator, whoever that is for you. Very worthwhile, by the way. Highly recommend that. You will find that as you dream, declare, deliver, and actually deliver for yourself, that will continue in itself to build more confidence. Because the more you dream, the more you do, and the more you accomplish, the more you feel like you can accomplish the next thing. And you start taking bigger risks. And in taking the bigger risks, you continue to silence your ego. And in continuing to silence your ego, you become more confident. And then suddenly you become somebody that everybody is looking up to because you are doing and living the life that they are too timid to go create for themselves. And what an amazing place that would be to live, right? So, dreaming, declaring, delivering is building self-confidence by keeping your promises to yourself. Now, again, this is a two-part statement. I borrowed the first half from Ed Milet. The second half is what I added. And here's why. And this is why I'm going to bring this, and this is how and why I'm going to bring this home. We build self-confidence by keeping our promises to ourselves, but only if we acknowledge ourselves for what we have accomplished. The reason I feel like you cannot have the first half of that statement without the latter half is because without the latter half, the first half on its own can create potentially a harmful pattern in which we become addicted to the achieving. We become addicted to amassing. We become addicted to stacking accomplishments. And we become addicted to that because it's in place of something we're missing, which is how we feel about ourselves internally. I know people that are self-made millionaires. I know people that, drive whatever dream car you can imagine. I know somebody who has an Aston Martin and a Bugatti and a McLaren, and they are miserable. And they are always chasing the next thing to achieve. And it actually is like an addiction, y'all. We build self-confidence by keeping our promises to ourselves, but only if we acknowledge ourselves for what we have accomplished. Acknowledging yourself, again, is not about stoking your ego. It's about killing it. And it's about receiving letting your accomplishments land for yourself so that you can find a sense of fulfillment for yourself in your life. I'm going to quote Tony Robbins here. Something he often says, and I know I'm going to butcher the quote, but Tony Robbins often says something to the effect of the greatest failure is accomplishing everything you want and not having any self fulfillment. Because what he's getting at is you actually can achieve endless things, but it's never going to be enough if you don't see yourself as enough. Because oftentimes people feed into this pattern of achieve, trying to impress or really earn the love of those they never got it from, or trying to impress people that they don't even really like. And this is why, unfortunately, per capita, their millionaires, billionaires have like a much higher suicide rate than the average human being in our society. So I know that I took that to a pretty serious place, and it is. But we build self-confidence by keeping our promises to ourselves, which is true, but acknowledging yourself, letting the accomplishments land for you are how you start to develop your sense of identity, a sense of self-fulfillment. And that is true self-confidence. When you build your self-confidence to a place where you don't have to say yes to every single opportunity, nah, I'm good. You have like a money-making opportunity, but you're so confident in yourself that you can be choosy because you know who you are, you know what your values are, you know what your morals are. That's actual self-confidence. Not letting others bring you down. That's true self-confidence. And so this begs the natural question, how do we acknowledge ourselves? Because I'm sure this is a pretty foreign concept for some of you. I got to be honest, guys, it's actually not that hard. You just got to pick something that works for you and stick with it. I really like little mini meditations. Some people like journaling, but really overall, it's a practice on gratitude. Every night before bed, we ask our son, what are you grateful for today? And I give an honest answer every single time. I'm grateful for my wife. I'm grateful for him. I'm grateful for an awesome client call that happened earlier in the day. Whatever the thing may be, whatever's true at the time. But the gratitude piece, learning to be okay with what you have and not what you don't have, is going to make the self acknowledgement a lot easier. Because if you're developing this base level understanding that what you have is already enough, you've gotten by this far with what you have, and that is enough. That's a really powerful starting point from which you can learn that you yourself are enough. as you are dreaming, declaring, delivering, and learning to acknowledge yourself. So, what a mini meditation would look like for me, oftentimes when I have a win, is just taking 30 seconds to a minute with my feet firmly planted on the floor, taking a deep breath in, and really just sitting with the knowledge that I did something that scared me and I did it anyway. I pushed past my fear, which is almost always your ego, by the way, is fear. I pushed past my fear and I did the thing. Awesome. I accomplished the thing I said I was going to accomplish in the time frame I said I was going to do it. That's even better. That's awesome. I might even put a fist pump in there. Acknowledging yourself again isn't necessarily throwing a party. It's not alcohol. It's not, you know, any big fancy show. It's just being present with yourself and allowing yourself to just enjoy the moment, being present and enjoying the moment of acknowledging what it is you did that was out of the norm, that you didn't want to do, but you did it anyway because you were choosing yourself and you were choosing the version of yourself that you want to be in the future. And again, I do these little mini meditations by myself, but journaling is great. You know, doesn't have to be a fancy journal. It can be a spiral notebook that you get for $1 from CVS. Whip it out, just write something down. Just literally brain dump all over the page. Whatever it has to be. I also like an acknowledgement buddy. I can acknowledge my friend for growing her business. I can acknowledge my wife each and every day for the things that she does as well. And she can acknowledge me too. Like having somebody else to acknowledge you is also a great way. And it's also kind of stretchy to ask somebody specifically to acknowledge you for something. Asking somebody that you know and love and trust to acknowledge you for the thing that you did so that you can actually hear it externally from you is a very powerful, potentially very moving way to receive the acknowledgement in this part of the process. So that's a third way to go about it as well. And so I know I've said it probably 4 dozen times already, but we build self-confidence by keeping our promises to ourselves, but only if we acknowledge ourselves for what we have accomplished. Again, we build self-confidence by keeping our promises to ourselves. That's dreaming, declaring, and delivering. Actually creating an action plan for your goals and executing on them. It's also anything that you say you're going to do that makes you uncomfortable and you do it anyway in service of the bigger goal. Those all count too. And then, but only if we acknowledge ourselves for what we have accomplished. Self-acknowledgement does not fuel the ego, it kills the ego. And what we have accomplished, that little clause right there, that's not just the big, wild, crazy goals. It's every single little thing, every single action step you take towards the bigger goal. You get to let it land, especially if you feel any type of feelings or fear or hesitation coming up around doing them. If you get good, like really commit, like no BS towards this process, I promise you, you will become a much more confident, probably a much more competent, because your ego isn't getting in the way, person. And before you know it, not only will you have that level of self confidence that everybody craves, but people are actually going to be looking up to you, asking you for advice on how to do the things that they want to do in their lives that they are too afraid to go do. It's just some food for thought for you guys, but this really is some powerful stuff. It's simple, but it's not easy. So I do recommend finding support on the implementation piece. Coaching is not therapy. So if you feel like you have some things that are really holding you back from your past, absolutely go find a therapist. I've seen multiple in my life. They've all helped me tremendously. Absolutely do that. But if you're in a place where you feel pretty solid, there aren't any past wounds to really heal, and you need help and support for where you are moving forward, find a coach. I am one. Just because I am one doesn't necessarily mean I'm the right one for you, but coaching is a wonderful way to get this exact type of support, especially when you're coming up against your ego and your fear, and you just cannot get yourself past it in order to do that next step on your journey. So definitely recommend looking into that. And then also just look for opportunities online to join groups, Facebook groups. There are all types of communities you can find that are in support of helping one another achieve their goals. So don't go it alone. You don't have to go it alone. Everything you need is right at your fingertips, literally these days with our cell phones. You can Google a lot of this stuff. So that is today's show, guys. If you enjoyed today, or honestly, even if you didn't enjoy today, if you got some value out of this, if you felt it was challenging, if you felt like this is something that you benefited from personally, please tell a friend. Bring a friend, send this to them. Please like and subscribe. Again, this is entirely to help people live the best versions of their lives. If I can facilitate that, then I've done my job here, but I can't do that if people don't listen to this. So, cost of admission, please just send this to somebody so that this can, help people make the changes that they're looking for. So, like, subscribe, share, tell a friend, tell your mom, tell everybody, tell your neighbor. But in all seriousness, this has been your inside track to success. I'm your coach and host, Stewart Kraintz. See you on the next episode.